cannot build an equitable anti-racist education system if a seated House Education and Labor Committee member incites violence through the perpetuation of racist lies in an attempt to overturn an election. We cannot build an equitable anti-racist society if a member of Congress endorses white supremacy. We need to strip them of their committee assignments. And then we must pass my resolution, HRES 25, to investigate and expel them. Thank you, and I yield back.
Boom! Cori Bush just keeps on giving. Hey everybody, it is Friday, February 5th, 2021. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Cute podcast. Yes, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken Press. Each week I talk to our unemployed Trump staffer, Sean Kitchen, about the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome, everybody joining us on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, smash that kind of little bell so you get that notification every time we go live. Yes, indeed. I'm loving the live broadcast, I got to say. On today's show, on an Instagram live broadcast Monday night, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez told the world in detail about her harrowing experiences during the Capitol insurrection. She also let everybody know that she has been a survivor of sexual assault. And I don't know if you watched the video, everybody, but it was wrenching. 11 House Republicans join all House Democrats in stripping QAnon Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee roles. As you heard Cori Bush's commentary in the intro today, Senate Democrats pass a budget bill in the wee hours of the morning, paving the way for the passing Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package. They're going to be able to do that now through reconciliation because of what they passed overnight. It's got to go back to the House, and then here we go. The bill was passed only after Vice President Kamala Harris cast a tie-breaking vote, proving that Democrats are willing to go big here. This is pretty good. Joe Biden fired all 10 members of the Federal Services Impasse Panel this week. The FSIP is a labor panel that settles federal labor disputes between public unions and the different federal agencies. But under Trump, the panel was stacked with Koch brother operatives and used to break federal sector unions. Once again, boom! There's other kind of cool news, too. There's some labor is pressuring, I didn't put this in notes, but it's pressuring the Biden administration right now to get behind and support the workers who are organizing a union down in Amazon. So...
and the PRO Act.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We should talk. We gotta go. I want to do a show on some of this stuff soon. Anyways, Congressional Democrats are pushing Biden to cancel $50,000 in student loan debt. During the campaign, Biden says, yeah, he'd be up for cancel around $10,000, right, student loan debt. But pressure is being led by Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer has got to have the concerns that he's going to get primaried. I'm telling you, because suddenly he's like active, right? He's come out of hiding, and he's like now being active and assertive. Well, anyways, but pressure led by Chuck Schumer, Elizabeth Warren, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, Alma Adams, and Mondaire Jones seems to be having an effect. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki tweeted, "Our team is reviewing whether there are any steps that he can take through executive action, and he would welcome the opportunity to sign a bill sent to him by Congress." Well, it just so happens, Jen Psaki and Joe Biden administration, that you should just head on over to the American Prospect, right, to their day one agenda, and they'll show you exactly how you have the authority to do precisely that. Why stop at 50,000? Just wipe it all. Go big or go home. That's how it goes. Speaking of the American Prospect, those good folks have a new executive action tracker on their website as part of their Day One Agenda project. Go check it out. It's really cool. You can track the executive actions, how they compare with some of the suggestions and some of the research that they had done. It's been pretty awesome. And over 1,100 Columbia University students have pledged to go on a tuition strike, saying they refuse to pay full tuition for all online classes. This is going to heat up. And this Super Bowl Sunday, General Motors will unveil their electrical vehicle line. Yes, there's a commercial already out with Will Ferrell challenging the Norwegians on electric vehicles. Anyways, GM said that they will eliminate all their combustion engine vehicles by 2035. We shall see, but man, I'll tell you, I'm looking forward to this. Today, a little closer to home, Governor Tom Wolf released his annual budget address on Wednesday. The governor called for an increase in the personal income tax and a tax credit program that will reduce taxes for 70% of working Pennsylvania families. He also called for the legalization of recreational cannabis use, and the increase in the $15 an hour minimum wage. After the budget was released, Nikhil Saval released a response to Governor Wolf's budget, basically saying that the budget, quote, does much to move funding swiftly and equitably to those who need it most. But Saval wrote that the absence of a vigorous environmental protection to respond to the climate crisis and the budget's silence on dealing with the housing crisis, especially during the pandemic, represents, quote, 2 missed opportunities. Man, is he being generous and diplomatic in his language, let's say. Former Montgomery County District Attorney Bruce Castor has gone from political I can't say this word. Irrelevance. I don't know why I always have trouble with this word. Irrelevance. To defending Donald Trump during the upcoming impeachment trial. Yes. Good old PA, man. We just keep on sending it, right? Pretty crazy. Anyways, Castor managed to burn every bridge possible while serving as the Montgomery County District Attorney and as the acting Attorney General of Pennsylvania. Congratulations, Bruce, I guess, And Kathy Boockvar steps down after a major screw-up that set back the fight for a constitutional amendment allowing abuse survivors access to justice. This is kind of like a story in, tragedy. I know Katie Muth has been out there livid about what's going on. And this is going to really set back this whole process by, they have to start the process all over again, basically. And good old Scott Perry's faculty instructor at the Army War College, penned an op-ed to the York Daily Record saying that he finds Perry's behavior troubling and calls on Perry to, quote, remove his name from any website that infers in any way that the Army War College considers him to be of the same stature as some of their more celebrated graduates. There you go. Cutting ties. And today's last call, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki could not say what the future of the Space Force will be under the Biden administration.
Wow, Space Force.
She promised to get together with the point of contact with the Space Force for more information. The Space Force flag was waving during the inauguration, we should say, because remember, Space Force. That's right. And also on Super Bowl Sunday, SpaceX is launching a commercial for what it's billing as the first all-civilian space flight as part of their Inspiration 4 project with billionaire Jared Isaacman. The commercial tells viewers that they'll have the chance to climb aboard. According to Space.com, there are 3 non-billionaire seats available, and I'm going to quote just from the article. One seat is up for grabs in a contest to anyone who makes a donation to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Another seat will go to a St. Jude's healthcare worker, and the third will go to the winner of an entrepreneur contest run by Isaacson's Swift First Shop. Now, you got those 3 folks in here with a bunch of billionaires going up there. Would you just love to be there for that conversation, right? It's just, anyways, whatever. What do you talk about? Just whatever. Anyways, in a major shift away from the Trump organization, Biden created a new role at NASA to prioritize Earth sciences to combat the climate crisis. The new Senior Climate Advisor position will report directly to NASA's administrator. The head of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies, Gavin Schmidt, will be the acting senior advisor until they fill the role permanently. Sean got POTS shipments this week. That's POTS in the plural. POTS shipments.
With an S.
Just saying. We'll leave that one for today's last call. Today we got Free Will's got releases. I gotta say they're frustrating me a little bit this week because they've got some new releases that are coming out, but they say they're not going to announce them until Saturday. Today's Friday, so I can't tell you what the new ones are going to be. But I can tell you that 2 of the old ones that they're bringing back to releasing this week that they've done before, Juice Money is a sour ale. That's going to be coming out. And also the coffee oatmeal brown ale is kind of back in stock. So I'll give you a little update on those. And I'll kind of keep on refreshing their store to see if they've got the new stuff posted. Anyways, want to turn into the and I forgot. I should also mention this. Sean, do you know Narragansett Brewery?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
You heard of them?
Narragansett. They're up in Rhode Island, right?
Yep, in Providence, right? And apparently Narragansett is becoming like their lager is becoming like a new hipster kind of thing, right? Because it's it's been around for a long time and all that. Anyways, the point being is that I did an awesome call with some friends that I haven't seen since for like 20 years, something like that, friends from college and things like this. And turns out one of my friends' girlfriends is their head brewer. How about that? Anyways, just side note. I'll talk more about that in today's last call. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I ordered a trucker hat for them in her honor. So, want to remind everybody to tune in to the Rick Smith Show on Free Speech TV this and every Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can stream the show live at freespeech.org. You can also tune in the Dish Network, DirecTV, or through the Free Speech TV app on Roku. And make sure to subscribe to the Rick Smith Show's daily podcast on iTunes or Podbean or wherever you get your podcasts. I want to give a shout out once again to Ben. Ben is our newest member who came in at the $25 a month level. Boom, Ben, thank you. He comes in at a class warrior level. Just to remind you that, look, you can become a member just like Ben. You become a patron just like Ben. Because if we want a progressive future, we're going to need progressive media. That's just kind of the way it is, right? It's kind of these things go hand in hand. You can help support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today. Become a patron of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress and choose your level. We're expanding our network as we prepare for the fight for our lives and fight for a future. Boom, do we need it? Now we need you. We're not asking you to break the bank. We're asking you to become a member for the price of good beer once a month. Help keep the media in the movement the media. Become a patron for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress. And I can tell you too as well, if you're not quite ready to jump on the kind of patron bandwagon, for whatever reason that might be, that $5, I don't know if we want to do that monthly. You can shoot us a tip anytime you want. All right, if you're watching on YouTube right now, you see it right there. It's the paypal.me/rcpress. Paypal.me/rcpress. You can drop us any much, $2, $5, $10, $100. You can drop it right in there. Give us a tip jar. Let us know that you support progressive media right here, homegrown in PA. Anyways, Sean, man, it's been one of those weeks. There's been lots of stuff that's going on. There's a weird sense of kind of deja vu of kind of remembering some things at the way that they looked at the national level before we had the wreckage of the Trump administration.
We're going back to normal, man.
Well, like
Larry Summers is in the news today.
Is he? I didn't see him. He's in the news?
Yeah, he said the Biden administration shouldn't go as big with their stimulus package. We're going back to normal. This is what I love to see. But no, I mean, I loved watching. I know we like the members responding to Marjorie Taylor Greene yesterday.
Yeah.
I also love Steny Hoyer.
I didn't
and
hear
his defense.
What did he say?
So Steny Hoyer printed off like one of those huge poster boards of Marjorie Taylor's tweets with her pointing a gun at AOC, Rasheda Talib, and Ilhan Omar. And Steny Hoyer gave a full-throated defense of the squad. Saying they're not the squad. Their names are Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
And they're human beings.
Yeah,
I did hear this. I didn't realize that was him.
And I think it's great for two parts because one, it gets Steny Hoyer on the record, a piece of shit Democrat defending the squad, which is great to have in your back pocket for future references when the right wing tries to attack this stuff. And no, I mean, it was great. And it's also great seeing the fucking caucus growing some spine around these three women of color serving, and that they're stopped being used as a racist cudgel in right-wing attacks or counter attacks.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. I heard a piece of that. Of that audio, but I didn't realize that was Steny Hoyer. I'm glad. That's great. I'm loving that. Well, I mean, that tells you we've been talking about this for a while now. This shows you how far. Or let's say how aware they are of the power shifts that are going on in the Democratic Party for Steny Hoyer.
And also what Hoyer was saying, two of these women are mothers. right? You have AOC with her Instagram live video explaining how she wants to become a mom and thought she wouldn't.
Yeah.
And pretty much like, like here you have someone who's not a mother coming up here, defending families, wanting to make lives for working families better. And you're going to use this like as an attack. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought it was great. It was powerful to watch it, but I think it means more coming from, a moderate conservative Democrat in office.
Yeah, I mean, I
defending these women.
I don't know if I'd be willing to say it means more, but I'd say that it tells you about their power. Because look, I mean, I don't, whatever. I mean, Steny Hoyer is a political operator, right? And he's clearly recognizing that the winds are shifting, and that he's better get on the bus. This time 2 years ago, they were fucking around with Ilhan Omar. Remember? Yes, exactly.
And now it's like it's refreshing seeing this. Like we're not playing this game again.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. So did you watch the video, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez AOC's video on Instagram?
I did not.
I tell you, I would strongly recommend it. Right, if you have, I know there's clips out there and stuff like this, but I kind of carved out a little space of time just to kind of sit and watch the whole thing. Because I saw the clips and things like this, but I'm telling you, watching the whole stream, watching that whole her whole discussion, it was horrifying. It was and devastating. Like when
I'm watching like Katie Porter's response to it.
You see Katie Porter, man. I'm telling you, I love Katie Porter. I'm a little bit kind of like concerned at this point because I think my wife shrunk my Katie Porter shirt and I'm upset. Just say that's a total side note. But my I love oversight shirt, I took it out of I'm like, whatever. Anyways, we'll get back to it some other time. It's a little frustrating. But anyways, Katie
stretched it back out.
Yeah. The problem is not the width, it's the length so much. That's the problem. Anyways, but we'll save that for today's last call. But Katie Porter's, her response, or her telling that story and kind of going on national TV, like once again, talking about AOC showing up at her door, and then what she did for her, and what that meant was incredible, and then hearing AOC also talking about Katie Porter, right? About her going to Katie Porter's door, and she was like saying like, I know I was already at like over 100%. I'm like, I am in full like fight or flight mode. I'm kind of getting out of there. I'm all this, and Katie's just saying, I'm a mom. I'm not going to let anything happen to you, right? I mean, shit like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I didn't watch the video. I saw like the horrific responses people had. Like, I mean, like, I don't want to make this like connection, but like, I mean, like there was a point like when I was in Harrisburg, someone walked in my apartment 3 o'clock in the morning mistakenly. Mm-hmm. And like, I gripped them up and realized within a few seconds it was a mistake. Right. And they walked into the wrong apartment. I ended up falling asleep with my door open and someone walked in, I dozed off and ended up waking up like 3 o'clock, and like waking up to that and you realize it's a mistake. But the trauma I've had for that, like lasted like almost 2 or 3 years just from something like that, like PTSD, like, and we can't really like downplay the trauma that people are going to face from this, like the insurrection and surviving this and the mental toll it's going to have on people for years. Like took me 2 or 3 years until I told someone about it. Like, I can't believe this. Like this happened 2 years ago. It was a harmless thing, but I'm still waking up in the middle of the night, nightmares, can't sleep. My heart's racing, going back to that moment.
Yeah.
And, one of my friends like, no, you're suffering from PTSD. Like that's like, so like, like even something as small scale as that, like you can't downplay the trauma that like survivors have from other situations that are way worse than that, or from like people surviving this insurrection that was minutes away from turning into a slaughter.
Well, I mean, this is what was
potential.
Yes, absolutely. And this is why I think the watching the video is so worthwhile, in part because she's clearly it's extraordinarily difficult for her to tell the story, for her to even come forward and tell kind of like, she's only told, she says in the video, only a few people before that she's a survivor. And then she's telling this and then recounting about what had happened and the scene that she describes of her in her bathroom, right? Literally like behind the door with people in the room, in the other room shouting, "Where is she? Where is she?" And she looks and she's telling the story. She's like, and I thought that was it. And she was like, I don't know how long that was. I don't know if it was a few seconds. I don't know if it was 30 seconds or several minutes. She's like, it was just amazing to see or to know how much can go through your mind in this really short period of time. And so all I thought at that point was like, this is how I die. This is it. And she was like, basically making her peace. I mean, she believes in God and stuff.
Listening to Susan Wild speak.
I didn't hear her one.
Susan Wild spoke in front of a committee hearing, House Democratic committee hearing a couple weeks ago, policy committee, here in PA, and she was saying like her kids were calling her, telling her what was happening, like, "Are you going to die?" Like, and she didn't know like how to respond to that. Like,
yep.
Like, this is not like just an AOC. This is AOC story, but like there are other stories out there with other members of Congress, like getting through that. Like,
well, even like Rasheda Talib when she spoke on the floor, she wasn't there when it happened, and she starts when she got up to speak. She talks about her first day before she was even sworn in. She was getting specific death threats, right? And people calling with death threats against her son, right? By name, right? And she's like, I hadn't even been sworn in yet. All I wanted to do was like to serve the people who allowed me to be what this is, to be in a place that's safe and that kind of respected who I was and kind of encouraged me. And I came here to do that, and I'm getting death threats. And it was like hearing the degree and the impact. Like, she talks on her. She was like, when I heard when there was that whole week ahead of time, everybody knew. Like the Capitol Police knew that there was going to be a problem. There was AOC said there was representatives coming up to her and telling her to be careful even before that day. You got to be careful. You got to be careful because something's going to go down tomorrow. Something's going to go down tomorrow. So they went there knowing this, and when Rasheda Talib heard some of this stuff, she's like, again, the trauma, the kind of like of receiving specific death threats to you on a continual basis, and they continue to ramp up, especially throughout the years in Trump, and now that with the launch of QAnon, she's been specifically targeted. Those stories and those women telling those stories of what that was like is just it's devastating. And so this was all part, of course, to the debate, quote unquote, about why Marjorie Taylor Greene should be stripped of her committee roles or assignments. And if you watch only the mainstream news, you watch only like network TV or something like this, it's somehow like, well, the Democrats are overreaching. This is what the Republicans are saying. The Democrats are overreaching. All right, they're trying an old playbook. And the power of those stories is basically saying, how can you simply try to plug what just happened into an old playbook and try to pretend that we're just going to move on and
like this away. I was thinking about this yesterday. Over 200 Republicans voted against impeaching Donald Trump.
Yep. 200
Republicans voted against stripping Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee assignments.
Yep.
Like this is what the Republican Party is. This isn't Trump. This is where the Republican Party has been going for years. We've watched it up close here in Pennsylvania. This is what their Trumpism isn't a thing. No, these people are straight up fucking Nazis or Nazi sympathizers at this point. The conspiracies that Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, have been sharing, like Scott Perry and stuff like that, are parallel and reminiscent to the conspiracies that, the Nazis spread in Europe in the 1920s and 1930s in the lead up to World War II and the Holocaust. Like, these are, like, the Nazis weren't living in reality. Yeah, they were an evil force and they killed millions of people doing so. But, like, none of what they believed in was based in reality. Like, they thought, like, Aryans were the master race.
Right.
Like, this is the type of things, like, these are the dangerous these conspiracy theories are dangerous. The stuff about, like, Jewish laser beams, you know, like, and the Rothschilds and Soros, like, this is like Elders of Zion type conspiracy theories that were responsible for the murders of millions of Jewish people. Like, these are this like, we have to really, like, look at these conspiracy theories that QAnon is spreading and that the Republicans are supporting and view them in that lens of, like, what the Nazis did in 1920 and 1930s. Like, these conspiracy theories are dangerous.
Yes.
They're going to get more people killed. And, like, it, like, the end point is them believing in a white nationalist ethno-state or in a Christian ethno-state.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, that's
like,
exactly it.
Like, this is what, like, anyone who knows history, you know, watching this stuff or reading this or watching what's been happening with the Republican Party, like, this is where the Republican Party is going. They've galvanized, they've openly embraced a white nationalist militia movement. You know, those white nationalist militia movements, the Proud Boys and other fascist groups, are now feeding into the frenzy of these conspiracy theorists. We saw this stuff happen once the Reopen movement started and were co-opted by a bunch of people. These massive Facebook groups with 80, 90,000 people going into them, like, it was a breeding ground for this stuff, and it only made it worse. You know, like, and let's be giving them a vehicle to, like, spread their bullshit.
Right. And I think that, you know, I do believe kind of what you're talking about here. When you see what's happening on social media, you can see what's happening on these Facebook groups and things like this. Absolutely, they've kind of those spaces have exacerbated part of the problem. But we should always have our
and also
eye.
It's like the 30 or 40 year movement by the right-wing media.
This is my point, right? My point is this. My point is that by pointing to social media as the cause of this is simply is off the mark, right? Yes, it is an absolute contributing factor, right? But exactly just Shonda said, this has been going on for 30 years, and this has been an increasingly dangerous game being played by the Republican Party, especially in the state party level, right? But as we see at the national, now it's all in the national, like, you know, the national. Like,
these people are not living in reality.
No, and it's like, but you know, we've talked about this before there was a thing called QAnon, about how the Republican Party is basically kind of continuously cultivating these relationships with these white nationalists, with these white supremacists, with these neo-Nazis. They try to pretend that they're distant from them, but they wanted to encourage them and fan the flames in order to kind of gin up support for voting for the increasingly extreme positions they're taking. And so what happens is that game can only go so far until that game becomes the dominant. And now we've got, you know, the QAnon folks in Congress.
These conspiracy theories have been around before QAnon was even, like, a thing. Right. Like the Jewish laser beams or the Rothschilds or Soros. Like, these were punching bags from the right wing and the fringe right for years.
Right.
Like, years before QAnon was even, like, a conception.
Yeah, and you know, I think that the lesson that's going to be important for,
and this is also where I think Steny Hoyer's defense of Rasheda Talib, AOC, and Ilhan Omar come into play is, like, once they regain power, they're going to try to do the same exact thing to the Democrats because of this.
Yep.
Like, and this is where that defense of AOC and others come in handy. Like, you know, we cannot lose the House in 2022. Like, we lose the House in 2022, it's all bets are off for the 2024 election.
Totally.
Like, they can do whatever the fuck they want to steal the election.
Yep.
If they control the House. Like, we have to really hunker in. Like, 2022 election midterms are going to be the most important elections of our lifetime.
Right.
Because that will control, like where we have to solidify our democracy.
Right. And here's the interesting thing that's playing out on the Democratic side of things is, I think just what you just talked about with Steny Hoyer, what I was talking about in the intro with Chuck Schumer suddenly getting on the kind of like, I'm going to push Biden to the left and make sure he gets $50,000 in student loan debt, and getting out in front on some of these issues, wanting to kind of, and publicly kind of like challenging or pushing or pressuring like Joe Biden. I think that's like indicative of, like I said before, about this rising pressure and these folks recognizing where the pressure is coming. And there's another part of this which is good, which, the Steny Hoyer one, I think, is especially useful for, is that, and I'd say Joe Biden too as well, the way he's staffed his administration thus far, is there is not this deep antagonism. Like, the primary antagonist for the centrist Democrats is not the left right now. It's Republicans. And that is incredibly useful. Because I think it's somewhat, by that defense, now that, I'm so glad you told me that was Steny Hoyer, because that just kind of helps put a bunch of stuff into place. Because of that defense, basically what it signals is that, okay, instead of doing what we've been doing since Bill Clinton, right, we are not going to just go after the left as the primary opponent, right? That we are actually going to see value in here, and we are going to step in and defend that. That is a bonus going into the midterms, right? Because that actually kind of... And
I will say...
And let me say one more thing, and I have to say that Nancy Pelosi for me has been a complete disappointment throughout most of the Trump administration for a bunch of reasons. We could talk about some of the nuances in that, but let me just make a general statement at this point. But one of the things that she just did this past week, and I just hope the Democrats continue to do this, when she referred to Marjorie Taylor Greene as the Q. Right?
Oh, you mean Mark Meadows?
Oh, so Mark Meadows. Mark Meadows. I'm sorry, not Marjorie. Yes, Mark Meadows as
leader of the Q caucus.
Right, the Q caucus, and instead of like like D hyphen California, right, referred to her as, or him as Q hyphen. Where's he from? Where's he?
California, I think. I think
it's California too. Yeah. And I think that moniker, right, being able to kind of to talk about this QAnon people, right, or the ones who have supported and aided and abetted this whole insurrection, is to tag them with that, right, and just to tag them with that Q moniker every freaking time. That was a good move. And again, I mean, in the scheme of things, it's not much, but
I think this vote of forcing her out of our committees was really good. I don't know if the Democrats would have done that before.
No, they would not have.
But I mean, yo, you are on the record now. You fucking you support the QAnon conspiracy theorist. Like, congratulations. Like, this is on your record as a vote. I don't know, like, the DCCC is already running pressure ads against people. Okay, whatever. We're 2 years out from an election. I hope that doesn't become the primary focus. But like, the thing is, where I think that past, with the Democratic leadership, I guess kudos to them for not wavering on this $1.9 trillion package, not letting the Republicans destroy it. Now, I will say one thing.
Yeah.
It's a little upsetting that minimum wage was not included. That's just going to be a fight we're going to have to battle for another day and put pressure on and make sure that gets through. But the fact that the Democrats, the caucus, did not allow Republicans to hijack this and get a $500 billion package or a $1 trillion package through is substantial.
Right. And I think that I agree. Right. And I was, you had all the signs initially coming out of, Biden.
Manchin didn't fuck this up.
Yeah. I mean, I was waiting for it. I mean, I think, anybody who's been paying attention to politics for any length of time at this point and is on the left is just waiting for, another grand compromise. But, you keep on hearing this reporting that says the Biden folks, the Biden team learned lessons from Obama about you can't wait, right? That the Republicans are not going to compromise, and then instead of all the capital,
don't listen to Larry Summers.
Don't listen to Larry Summers, right? But but it was concerning there for a minute though, because Biden said that he's open to some kind of compromise, right? And frankly, I don't care whatever people want to say. There's already a compromise that was built into the bill, right? When you're talking about the stimulus payments of $1,400 a month instead of full $2,000 checks, I understand that it's just addition, right? Because there was a $600 check that came out, and this is the rest of it, right? But nobody campaigned on a $1,400 check. It was $2,000. right? And that's one of my concerns there is that's the message that goes to the rest of us, right? That like, oh, okay, you're going to say this thing, but really you're going to go halfway. And then Manchin, this is where Manchin is just an absolute bastard. And some of these folks, even though I give them credit for holding together with the caucus for a bunch of stuff, but, working with Susan Collins in order to kind of means test more of these checks, right? Means test more of that stimulus package is like, that is only going to hurt people.
I had to look at my tax returns this morning to see if I would qualify for a fucking check. You know what I mean? Are you
that is messed
kidding
up.
me?
That is absolutely messed up. Because let's remember, see this is where that logic from the 2008-2009 economic crash is kind of creeps back in. And I read this other article today, but it was the Chamber of Commerce is all over this, wanting to kind of limit who gets the stimulus check and so on, which in so many ways is completely messed up. It shows you that all the Chamber of Commerce cares about is driving down working conditions so much you keep the entire working class, right, in kind of in anxiety and stressed out because you have more compliant workers. That's what I believe at this point, because they're whatever. But so they've been pressuring it hard to kind of means test all this stuff. But when you think about it, that's the complete wrong issue. Because what this stimulus check does, let's just say, for example, right, that you didn't have to worry for a second, right? You didn't even have to think about this. You just knew the check was going to come. Right? What's going to happen to that? You're going to use it.
Yeah, I'm
right?
going to pay off my credit card with it. I'm going.
Well, and other people are going to go out. They're going to go out to the grocery store. Maybe they're going to go out and they're going to buy things. It's actually going to, not only is it going to help them, right? Because there's still this logic that as if these are handouts to people who don't deserve it, which drives me insane. What these checks are is, yes, you're saving these people, right? You're helping them, and that money is going into the economy that helps everybody.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a twofer.
Once I get this check, I'll be able to pay off my credit card and then put money down for a laptop that I need. Yeah, and I'm living comfortably right now, I'm in a lot better situation than I was maybe a couple years ago, but I'm still putting that money back into the economy and contributing. It's not fucking rocket science with this.
No, and it's because if you remember what happened with the stimulus, with the minimal stimulus that came out with the Obama administration after the economic collapse, right? They had a choice: do you bail out the banks or do you bail out the mortgage holders, right? When it comes to the housing stuff, right? And the logic was, what they did during the Great Depression, you basically bailed out the mortgage holder, right? And then that money went into people, kept people in their homes. Right, and then the bank got money through them for the mortgage, right? But didn't get it directly from there, and everyone else got screwed. So I think that again, that's one of these lessons that the Biden administration half learned if they have these kind of compromises. But at least they want the direct payments. At least they're focused on getting money to actual people, which is great. And there was a lot of stuff that was in here, in this package that is gonna help out people directly. So this is good. And I guess the what they passed last night was this the budget bill that came out last night that they passed with Kamala Harris casting the deciding vote. That goes now back to the House, but because they did this in the Senate, now it's available for reconciliation. So that's the plan. We can only hope that it's not going to delay this too much, because the unemployment benefits run out in kind of mid March, I believe. And so they got.
And the House should vote on this first thing next week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're moving fast. I mean, this is great. I mean, this is better. I'll admit it. I'll put hands down. This is better than I expected. Just in terms of the pace of the way things are moving.
And no, I mean, Biden needs these victories up front and fast. Another thing Biden did this week, fired everyone on the Federal Services Impasse Panel. Well, he demanded the resignations of all 10 members. And 2 said no, and he fired. Federal Services Impasse Panel is one of these obscure government panels that we've been looking at for the past couple of years. Basically, if they're an arbitration agent for the government. Pretty much like if there's federal labor disputes between unions and different federal agencies or the contracts, they act as an arbiter and set the final precedent for that. They've spent the past 4 years destroying federal labor law, destroying contracts, and pretty much using this as a vehicle to break public sector federal unions, within all the agencies, give them shitty contracts, and like Trump had these people like stacked with people from the Mackinac Center and the Fairness Center. Mackinac Center is from Michigan, and they're one of the leaders in the opt-out legislation that your public sector union members are seeing. The Fairness Center is a public sector law firm is a nonprofit law firm here in Pennsylvania. It does nothing but to
You're breaking up.
Unions with frivolous. I'm going to turn off my video.
Yeah, here I'll throw up your. Go ahead. Keep going. I'll fix the image.
No, the Federal Services Impasse Panel. Here in the Fairness Center, they bog down unions with frivolous lawsuits in hoping to drain them of resources and rewrite labor law through the courts. So it's good seeing Biden fire these people. This is one of the things I want to see on day one. Not the firing of Rob, but I'll take it.
Right. No, exactly.
No, and it's like cleaning this filth out and uprooting them from out the from society.
Nice. Oh well, I'm going to leave it like that. I thought I had an image that I was going to throw up of you right there, but you're just going to be a blank screen for now. Sorry. No, that's a big deal, man. That's a huge deal. You still there? I think we may have lost Sean.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. I thought we just lost Sean.
No, I'm good. Yeah, no, my internet's just been crappy, so.
Gotcha.
I think everyone's has been.
Yeah, I had all sorts of issues this week just in my classes. I was, particular with Zoom, it was not loading me in, and then I had one instance where I was on Zoom, and it wouldn't load, and then I don't know how to explain it, but then after that I lost my internet. Right? So my computer would not connect to the internet. I had to restart several times in order to get it back and running, and I screwed up a bunch of meetings and stuff. But anyways, and other good news that we also have, like I mentioned already, they have this big push. There's a kind of resolution that is that's making its way through Congress, and basically to have push Biden to cancel $50,000 in student loan debt. Right. I think this is for all those students that are out there doing kind of organizing work. This is one of these opportunities to kind of to absolutely jump on this. Right, and do the letter writing, do the calling campaigns, put additional pressure on that, because they're going to need to hear from college students with debt, or graduates with debt, or people who are carrying that student loan debt. They're going to need to hear your stories. So, contact your representative and say, like, you want to see Joe Biden. You want to make sure that Joe Biden cancels $50,000 in student loan debt. That you're 100% around this cancellation, right? And you might hear from the representative or the staffer who takes your call. It's like, well, there's not a bill that's on the floor. And say yes, but you want your representative to know that Joe Biden needs to cancel this student loan debt, and that you want your representative to be an advocate for that position and tell your story, right? Because I think it is going to make a difference. I mean, the fact that you had Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, out there saying, look, she said, like I said here, she said, our team is reviewing whether there are any steps that he can take through executive action. Now, I do believe that is a bit of a hedge, right? Because Joe Biden was kind of like, emphatic at one point that he was not going to kind of like do this through executive action. He wanted Congress to come up with a bill. Now that's great, in the abstract. That's the best way to do it. However, if, right, you've got this split in the Congress, right? You got people like, say, Joe Manchin. You've got people that that are not necessarily going to vote with the Democrats, or are not going to be in supportive of this. Then that bill's not going to happen. So what do? Right? Well, you use the kind of same authority that he used basically to do other things with kind of education, right? Higher education and student loan stuff. And basically he passed this one thing was basically saying, you could defer payments, right? That you're not going to kind of have to make your payments right now, right? He did that through executive action, right? It's the same identical authority that he has with the stroke of a pen to cancel that debt, right? Yes, there's going to be some blowback from the big banks and corporations and that kind of stuff. Yes, the Chamber of Commerce is going to give him all sorts of shit for kind of doing that kind of stuff. But you know what? You cancel $50,000 student loan debt for each individual loan holder, right? That's huge.
You want to bring millions of voters into the Democratic Party and widen that tent?
Absolutely.
This is what you can do.
Absolutely. I've seen Sarah Jaffe's come out with a new book, Work Won't Love You Back. And it's she's been doing the interview rounds and stuff this week. And, one of the things I think that I was glad to hear her say this because, she got on the Majority Report, for example, Sam Cedar asked her the question like, well, which one of these policies, targets the working class? Because there's an argument out there that people are making that, well, if you do student loan debt, that's not everybody. Right, that it'd be more effective to do kind of free childcare, right, or that kind of stuff. And Sarah Jaffe, and along with others, right, and I should say, Sam Cedar wasn't arguing that you shouldn't do that, but he's kind of putting that to her because she was making a case for this working class, and I think she was right on the money with it. She was basically saying, look, the working class is not just the one single thing, right? It's not the image in our head of kind of like the white guy in the blue shirt working on an assembly line. The working class today is a much more diverse and kind of like all-encompassing one. As a matter of fact, there's been a pushing down of what we would call the middle class, right, and a kind of an evening out in terms of all of our conditions of exploitation. And what she's saying is like, yes, look, no one bill is going to catch everyone, right? Because you have childcare, there's going to be people that don't have children. So then, do we not do it? No, you need to do it all, right? It's like, so it's true that the student loan debt, right? I mean, you think about it. You have about a third of Americans, right, have college degrees, right? We're in college, so a third, maybe pushing 40% at sometimes. But it is the discourse in our society that's pushing high school students, right, to go to college, right, to get some kind of college education, and therefore, in this context, that means taking on debt. And so, this is a way that you basically take the shackles off these folks, right, of everybody who's carrying around this debt. And allow them to kind of catch their breath and actually invest in things that are going to be important for themselves and their community. So this is it. So good deal. Yeah. So the other thing I'm looking to see what goes on with this Columbia University student situation where they've put a pledge to go on a tuition strike, saying refuse to pay full tuition for all online classes. This is going to play itself out really interestingly, especially in some of the rearrangements that are happening in higher education. If you didn't check out our show on Monday on Out to Coop Live, we had Brian Bailey back on the show talking about some of the attacks in higher education, and this tuition strike kind of cuts against some of the administrative plans that they're looking just to kind of say gut higher education. Right. It's basically saying, okay, you want to gut faculty members, you want to gut services, you want to kind of push everything online. Well, guess what then? We're not going to pay for all online. We're going to take the words that you say about the college experience, and we're going to take that to heart, and we're going to say, no, you're not delivering it, so therefore we're not going to pay it. We'll see what goes through him, but this is kind of an interesting tactic that's coming up. And last thing I'll say kind of before we go to break is that, General Motors, I failed to mention this last week. I can't believe I even had it in kind of in a side note, but for some reason didn't comment. So General Motors came out big and basically saying they have planned to kind of get rid of all their combustion engine vehicles. And when they say all, there's a little bit of quotations around that because they'll produce some things for specific stuff. So what you're talking about, the vast majority of consumer vehicles that they have out there are going to be electric by 2035. And apparently on the Super Bowl Sunday, they're going to unveil, you may have already seen some of this stuff, they're going to do an electric Hummer. And there's a lot of pushback on this, right? Saying, why the Hummer? Why not do some of the other stuff? But you know what? If you look at where the American market is, where the majority of vehicles are bought, one of the most popular, for example, cars that are sold out there is the Ford F-150, right? That we have built in a culture of big trucks and aggressive trucks and all this kind of stuff. If GM is willing to go in and say we're going to make all these electric by 2035, and it's going to use the Hummer as a way of demonstrating you can have that kind of power or kind of like muscularity, whatever, in an electric vehicle, I do think that's going to make an impact, and a potentially huge impact. So they've got some commercials that'll be kind of unveiled on Super Bowl Sunday. You can check out the one by Will Ferrell right now. That he He basically goes out to kind of like, take on Norway because Norway has more electric vehicles in use than the United States and whatever. It's they're investing in this stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens down the road. Still, we should always say, yes, as much as this is a huge step forward, what we really need is more public transportation, get away from the cars in general, but we'll leave that for another day.
I will say I am starting to look at a car myself. I'm not planning on getting one until like the summertime or after I come back from vacation.
Yep.
But I like the lineup that Chevy's been putting out.
Yeah.
My dad has a Chevy Trax, which is a compact SUV.
Yep.
Sort of car, but it still has like 40 miles to the gallon on the highway, and like it's a very fuel efficient car, so that's really nice. I think. Side note, that's what I'm looking at buying.
There you go.
Get a used like Chevy Trax, but it's amazing how we in this country we never struck that balance of creating fuel efficient SUVs, like hybrid SUVs, to meet that demand.
Yep.
It never.
And we did the reverse of it too, right? I mean, we kind of like, we like poo-pooed the electric stuff, right? And kind of like geared up on the kind of like the big,
fucking just tripled down on like the F-150 and the F-250s and stuff that's just completely unnecessary for fucking people to be having. I'm sorry, but like I spent a summer driving an F-350 and F-150 around because for work reasons, like when I was working at LaSalle University, there's no need for people to have a fucking F-150 if you're not using it for work reasons. It's just a status symbol at that point.
Well, that's absolutely true, right? And we should say, I mean, I'll say it at least. I say the F-150 is a freaking awesome truck. There's no doubt about it.
Great.
And I agree with you. But my point is even this, right? So if this is what we've done with our culture, right, that we're kind of associating kind of like, strength and hipness and coolness and freedom with trucks, then kind of what you were pointing to is like that should be the number one place to go. Right, is you target those trucks. Instead, what GM said, like, no, our trucks, we want exclusions from all the kind of, what do you call it, emissions rules and things like this, and the CAFE standards. We want kind of like exclusions for that because we're a work truck, even though we're selling to everyday consumers and making them feel like they're strong and important and free, right? Whatever. And, and again, because of that, you've had American companies that could have been designing for the next generation, for the next world, right? For the, that's going to get us away from the reliance on fossil fuels and have all that kind of innovation, which we always hear about, right? No, what they just did is they just did more of the same, made dirtier trucks, right? That kind of burned more fuel and things got bigger and bigger. And here we are. So whatever, man. Crazy. On that note, though, I have to say, on the electric note, after the snow for this week. So if you're tuning in the podcast, you're not watching the YouTube right now. I've got my little peanut snow wall like thing back in the back because I love the snow so much, and it snowed and I'm so happy about the snow. It's made me extraordinarily happy, but it also made me a little sad this week because I'm realizing that I'm getting old, right? And shoveling 3 times a day heavy wet snow is not doing well on my body. Right? So what's that?
I enjoyed the snow. So I enjoyed it. I stayed in my apartment, ate some edibles.
There you go.
And did some cooking.
Well, yeah. No, so we like, on Monday we shoveled 3 times. I should wait this for the last call, but I'll say it now since I'm here. Shoveled 3 times, but we have some kind of older neighbors, right? So we're shoveling their walks and stuff like this too as well. And so I broke down and I bought a snowblower, right? It is a all electric snowblower. It is a rechargeable. So I have my lawnmower is like an Eagle lawnmower. It's got a battery, rechargeable battery thing, and the thing is freaking amazing. It's like the best lawnmower I've ever had, right?
Roxbury has a rechargeable leaf blower. And he said it's one of the best things that he has. Like,
hands down.
No emissions. Like there's not a lot of sound to it. You're not breathing in noxious gases and fumes and shit like that.
Absolutely. I mean, I have the same brand kind of Ego. So if there's anybody who's works for Ego out there and he wants to sponsor this show, I would gladly take it because I love the freaking products. But whatever. They have the great batteries, excellent power. I also got my trimmer is that. And they started a few years back. They started messing around with doing a snowblower because that's you're talking about a heavier load and stuff. And they have one. It actually they've done all these tests on it. It competes like evenly, right, if not better than some of the kind of combustion engine ones. So anyways, I went electric on that. I've never owned a snowblower in my life, right? Although I did come from Central New York where there were snowblowers everywhere. But I was always like, a shoveling snob. I would always get out there and shovel no matter what. Even as like my stepfather eventually bought one. I was like, no, I'll shovel it. It's like, Central New York snowbelt thing, but my body's breaking down. So, so here we go. So I'm on the electric trip. That's all I'm saying. And it's going to help me out doing the neighborhood, because that's what I love, being out in the snow, and I'll just do the sidewalks, right? Do my neighbor's sidewalks, do my neighbor's things like that. That'll be a lot of fun. So that's my big purchase, but I spoiled it for the today's last call. But anyways, anything else before we head into break?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right, good. All right, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Want to remind you that you become a patron of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress. And if you want, you can drop us a little tip in our tip jar right here today by going to paypal.me/rcpress. That's paypal.me/rcpress. Little as $5 a month. But if you're there, you do the paypal.me, it could be $2, it could be $5. Could be $100 if you want. You just got it. That's sitting around burning a hole in your pocket. You can do that for us. But more importantly, what I'd like you to do too, one thing you can do for us, regardless of whether you become a patron or not, is that you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. You make sure that you hit the bell so you're alerted every time we go live, and share it with your friends and let them know about the show, so they can come on too as well. If you're subscribing to our podcast, make sure that you're going to iTunes. Make sure you leave us that 5-star review. Leave us a little comments. Leave us that. That helps other people see us and find our show. Right? The more that you can do and help distributing the world out there, right? Sending it out with your circle of friends, let them know the shows are up there. The more that you can do that, the more it helps support this show right here. Lets other people find it and we bring it in. All right, it's Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back to Raging Chickens Out the Coop podcast. I'm here once again with Sean Kitchen, and looking to basically find an image for Sean so that so we don't have just a blank screen for him. So while Sean is, you'll notice this too as well. If I was really on my game today, I'd basically have those already loaded in our kind of our studio here, but apparently I'm not on my game. So
I am losing your audio.
You're losing my audio?
Yes.
Okay. Are you hearing me now?
Not really.
Because I'm showing up on my... Oh, wait. I see what's happening. Okay, hold on a second. Test. Shoot, this happened before. All right, go ahead and just talk us through, Sean, and I'll see if I can fix it.
That sounds a lot louder. We were just talking to.
Yeah, I just went right. Oh, here we go. I think I'm almost back up.
Yeah. So I think before we get into it, news just broke across that the Philadelphia School District, the PFT, Philadelphia Federation of Teachers, have told their teachers not to go in the classrooms on Monday and return to work.
Really?
Yeah. So we might be seeing another education strike here in Pennsylvania. There's one that's popping up or brewing right now in Chicago around the reopening of the school districts. If you haven't seen it, this past week, a photo went viral of the Philadelphia School District trying to take care of their ventilation systems. And what they did is they got those cheap $20 window fans, they're reversible window fans, stuck them to some plyboard, and
I saw these pictures.
Yeah, and pretty much like that's their excuse to getting teachers back in the room for ventilation. So one that's not up to standard for that. I don't know if other unions do this, but the PFT has an environmental scientist on staff. And their environmental science is like, yeah, these just don't follow best practicing standards.
Right.
So we'll see how that goes next week.
Pretty crazy. That's awesome. Man, so you got Chicago, Philadelphia now. This is going to be good. So when we get into this budget stuff, kind of walk us through what's going on with the budget.
Governor Wolf released his budget on Wednesday through a live stream and a video. The first time in about 100 years, the budget address wasn't given on a budget day or given in person. And Governor Wolf made some good points in this. Like, hey, maybe I should be talking to you, the people, and not talking to the legislature. Make that more of a tradition from now on. The way he said it was really good. Pull back that gatekeeping that the budget usually is. It's the State of the State address. And Wolf... the top line items, Wolf proposed an increase in the personal income tax, proposed a fair funding formula an actual fair funding formula for school districts like Philadelphia and others, a tax credit that will be tax cuts for 70% of working Pennsylvanians, which is a way to get away from Pennsylvania's uniformity clause in the Constitution, which is just absolute bullshit.
Right. And
then he called for the legalization of recreational marijuana and the $15 an hour minimum wage.
There you go. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I think that this gives. I don't know. I mean, I was surprised. I was surprised at the kind of duality of this. Is like those are all good things. And I hate to just focus on the negative. All right, I hate to do this. But let me ask you this: what is your sense about why there is nothing in there, or they're flat funding for the DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, and there's very little in the kind of the realm of say climate action? I mean, that really surprised the shit out of me. I mean, it seems like right now is the time to do this.
I guess it's not really surprising for me.
Okay.
Given the governor's track record on fracking and oil and gas industry and the Democrats in this state, I don't think that they prioritize that stuff. They see Paris Accord climates as as the gold standard, and that's it.
So all they need to do is just they don't need to do anything at the state level. They just have to just follow what's happening nationally, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's really.
I think there was some regional climate pacts, but I mean, I don't see.
Well,
anything.
I know that they were. I mean, I know they say he was supportive of going ahead and continuing on that. That kind of the regional association they're talking about. I forget what it's called. I'm sorry, I just got distracted by my sound stuff here, so I'm just failing in my discussion. But definitely, that's good. I just was that was the one thing that kind of really stood out to me, and I was looking forward to seeing what they were going to do here. Excuse me. I thought we might see a little bit kind of more of kind of bold action on that. But I mean, on the labor end of stuff, on the actual kind of money going to kind of working families, about finally getting behind $15 minimum wage. I mean, that's a huge thing. So what's been the kind of the response to this so far? I mean, the intro talk about Nikhil Saval kind of coming out and basically being, and I chose him in part because he's one of the new folks coming out kind of clear. He's a socialist. He's going to be from the left, and is part of that new group of folks that are coming in, that are adding on to the progressive battalion that is growing on in the Pennsylvania legislature. And he was very encouraged by a lot of what was in there was for working families, but had these kind of two drawbacks. I mean, has that been your sense of the way it's been received in at least the Democratic caucus, and what do you think is going to be happening?
I mean,
here?
you look at it. I mean, I think it takes realizing who's replacing these people and who they are replacing within the caucus.
Uh-huh.
Rick Krajewski placed Roebuck. Farnese was okay, but wasn't really banging the mantle on this stuff. Fiedler's from South Philly, where Pico or the where the oil and gas refineries are at, that went sky high a couple of years ago. The Democrats who were in office before them would be supporting these refinery jobs because they're building trades jobs, and would stop any anything that went against them, because that's what the trades or the oil and gas industry wanted. And we now have another crop of Democrats who are saying, no, another world is possible, pretty much.
Right.
And I think it's replacing these old Democrats who, wanted the oil refinery in South Philly to blow up how many times it went, or to keep on emitting pollution or emitting toxins into the neighborhoods around it and the communities around it for jobs. And we're seeing it with Summer Lee out in Western Pennsylvania, her in the Mon Valley talking about U.S. Steel and the stuff that's been going on there and the emissions. And we're seeing it here. There's that new breed of Democrats coming into office that we should say, no, we have to stand up to these polluters, and we have to be more thoughtful of climate change. And I think that's what it's going to take in order to have a governmental administration in office to actually take this stuff seriously. I mean, we have someone who's running for Senate, he's very large in stature, who has gone around saying we have to vote your jobs, and telling people to vote your jobs ahead of the environment.
Right.
And frankly, it's one of Fetterman's biggest downfalls, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Is his rhetoric defending the natural gas industry by telling people to vote your jobs, which does absolutely nothing on the climate change issue. And the more people like Nikhil and Sarah Summer, Rick get into office, the more that attitude's going to change for the better.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a generational thing. I think it's who they're replacing.
It just tells me a little bit about it sets my sets my stake, I guess, in terms of understanding really kind of the work that's got to be done in the Pennsylvania Democratic Party in particular, right? Because this is one of these opportunities. I mean, Pennsylvania is number 4. Right, number 4 of the and kind of the emission thing. So we're the number 4th largest producer of any state in the U.S. right? So that is a significant problem. And it's a significant problem, especially when we have climate change. Now you've got an administration at the federal level which has made climate change one of its priorities, and it keeps on talking about this. At the very least, when it comes to like playing the political game, right? It seemed that this was an opportune moment to say, at Pennsylvania, we're finally going to take the bull by the horns, that we are going to get on board with this. We got to make sure that we're getting the investments of renewable jobs for Pennsylvania's future, even though you know that most likely what's going to happen is the Republicans are going to push back so far, and Democrats don't have a majority, so that's not going to fly into the final budget. Even if we were like trying to be like pessimistic realists like that.
I mean, there's an oil and coal caucus in the fucking House Democratic caucus, like. That's led by people, okay?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
I mean, like, this is what we're dealing with still.
Right.
Like, within the Democratic Party. Like, there's a caucus dedicated towards fossil fuels.
Yep.
Like, and some of the worst fossil fuels out there.
Yep.
Like, so, I mean...
and that tells... I mean, I think this is good. This is really good because, we're going to have... I forget, there's a deadline coming up. I think... Huge Tiny Mistake was talking about this on Twitter. Sorry. But that, if you want a mail-in ballot, that, you have to re-register for one. So make sure that you got to go ahead and do this. And when you start paying attention to these, kind of off-year elections and kind of midterms and kind of local elections, to slowly start kind of replacing some of these people with the kind of people that are going to take dramatic action. Because, you have this problem within the PA Democratic Party to begin with when it comes to climate. But
yeah.
Cool. So, Bruce Castor, man. Bruce Castor.
Who?
Dude, highest profile lawyer in the Republican Party right now.
Yeah, like Bruce Castor hasn't been relevant in Pennsylvania politics in like fucking 8 or 9 years.
Dude, what are you talking about? He's been preparing for this moment his whole life. What do you think he's been doing these past? You think he's just been sitting around doing nothing? No. He's been sharpening his edges so that when this moment came to his he would be ready to pounce.
I mean, it just shows you how like off the fucking rails the Republican Party is.
Yeah, right. Right.
I mean, I'm working on a project right now. Can't really say what, but like telling this person who's leading this project, like, like fucking Pennsylvania politics has always been this crazy. Like, it hasn't started with like the insurrection or the past like several months. Like, I mean, like Pennsylvania Republicans just went mask off the past like few months, like just with all the shit that's going on. But like, they've always been this fucking insane, like for a decade now. Just like, again, like Bruce Castor shows that. Like, Bruce Castor was a county commissioner, district attorney, was acting attorney general for like 2 weeks after Kane went to jail or was found guilty, and like still managed to burn every bridge within the Republican Party on the way out the door. Like, not just like within his own party, but I mean, like now he's just clout chasing, and maybe that will get him like some fucking recognition.
Hey, well, it's it's good to see everybody gets second chance.
And it also shows you that like Trumpism is not going to die. Like, I mean,
I don't know why you're so pessimistic about that. I thought that, we had turned the page, right?
Like Will Bunch was I guess in the Majority Report a few months ago.
Yeah.
But he's been saying this for a while, like making those comparisons to about like Trump and Frank Rizzo. I'm pretty sure he was on the Majority Report talking about this. Like, yeah, he's going to be like Frank Rizzo, like he's going to become everyone's fucking problem until he fucking dies at this point.
Yep.
And he's not going away. Like, and no, Will Bunch is like on point with that. And just like, I mean, like, fucking else can you say?
I think it's pretty good. Like, I mean, but it's, I think that there's been an increasing number of people who have been watching. Like, I get texts and stuff from, friends of mine from across the country on a fairly regular basis that are, basically some version of like, what the fuck's wrong with Pennsylvania? What the hell is going on there? Right? I mean, whether
what are you talking about? We've been like this for years.
That's exactly. I'm like, yeah, thank you for paying attention. Finally, it's like we've been trying to tell you this, and you're just like, yeah, whatever, Kevin. You're just the dark cloud in the room, whatever. I'm like, no, I'm just like trying to.
So I mean, like, there was a story that came out this week. We didn't have it in our show notes, but like Jared Holt put out a story last week about the Jericho marches, right?
Yeah.
And well, like Ronan Farrow put out a story this week in the New Yorker about the woman, the bullhorn lady who got arrested at the insurrection, and her house is now getting raided by the FBI, or was raided by the FBI last night. She's now in custody. This was the woman seen like telling people the floor plans of the Capitol, and telling them where the fuck to go. Like
I'm telling you.
And like, you know, like this woman was at all these rallies over the spring and summer, the reopen rallies. Same rallies I went to, like
as an observer, we should be clear.
Yeah, as an observer,
like clear.
I mean, I remember watching the fucking Jericho March day one start, like, and shit posting about these people on Twitter, like saying, "Look at it's like these people are like the fucking priest from Monty Python's Holy Grail, just banging themselves in the head, like the flagellants, like whipping themselves." Like at the time, like, wow, these people are fucking crazy, but like they were the driving force behind the Christian nationalist coup that happened on January 6th. Like, and just like, yeah, I mean, like, it's awesome time being in Pennsylvania.
it's
just
something.
like it's yeah, I mean, like we really went mask off the past like 4 months with everything.
Yeah, like literally, like you kind of like oxygen mask off, like whatever, everything off.
Like Scott Perry,
protective gear out the window, right? Yeah.
Jim Jordan coming in to stop the steel rallies, the reopen stuff, yeah. I mean, like, watch the coup, Roxbury, and I watched the fucking coup happen, unfolding, and no one was paying attention to these people too. Like, literally, the only two people watching the Jericho marchers were like Roxbury and I, and maybe Caruso on some days, but like media didn't pay attention to these people. Like, what the fuck are these people marching around the Capitol doing? I'm just like, here we go. We found out what they were up to.
Oh my god, it is pretty nuts. It is pretty nuts. So
yeah, and it's like,
yeah. I'm just thinking. I just had this moment of remembering back when you basically were posting those pictures of like people getting haircuts outside the Capitol, like with the straight razors. Right? You know.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, just like that just came flashing back in my mind. Right? It's like, this is really.
Oh, I spent a few minutes talking to someone today about those photos, and they were just like, "What?" I'm just like, "Yeah, like this is what it was like on the ground here in Harrisburg the past like 8 months."
Hey, Sean, we got a question. We got a question for you here right before you go in there about the ground. So, this is good. Thank you for the question. Like, who is Roxbury? So, would you like to tell people about who Roxbury is?
Roxbury is someone who lives in Harrisburg. He's been here since like the 70s. Has a lot of wealth. Sources don't know how he got it.
Great. You're gonna turn him into some kind of black ops character here or something like this? Really?
he got a lot of money by buying and selling buildings in Harrisburg in the 80s and 90s. And he's the person who has the deck on State Street in front of the Capitol. And like the MSNBC and NBC National rented out the deck for the week.
So he runs his own media company, right? He basically has his own media company that he's been a
media
fixture,
company.
Yeah, he's like a fixture in the Capitol of somebody who is basically goes and
he's a gadfly.
Yeah, and he films everything, right? He's got probably more footage of the happenings in Pennsylvania than anybody, right? Than that he's got. And
he has this whole entire coup on video, like he has gigabytes of video from the past several months, all of the coup attempts and all the people that showed up in Harrisburg and speaking. And it's just like, he can put together a multi-million-dollar documentary on Pennsylvania alone, like the footage that he has.
Yeah,
Like,
I gotta say, like, trying to say, I'm like, TikTok, man, let's get that stuff out. I would love to see that stuff get
but I
put
mean,
out
he has
because
like
it's,
videos of like,
yeah.
he ended up like walking on to one of the videos he has. I love watching. He was on the House floor in 2006 when there was a 1-seat majority for the Democrats, and they overthrew Bill DeWeese for Denny O'Brien, a Republican out of Northeast Philly. The Democrats didn't want DeWeese as their House Speaker and weren't going to vote for him. DeWeese was a Speaker back in the 90s, and he was going to be Speaker again in 2006, but instead, Democrats, Josh Shapiro, staged a coup. They ousted DeWeese, and they all voted for. They got a couple of Republicans on board, and they all voted for Denny O'Brien. And Roxbury was somehow got on the House floor with his camera. They allowed him on, and he has like them like fucking yelling and screaming, and you got families on the House floor. You got people drunk. They're celebrating because it's swearing in day. No one knew this was going to happen, and someone stood up like Dale Leach and was like, "I nominate Darryl Metcalf for House Speaker." Like, like this stuff is like gold. And he's just like, they allowed me on. They thinking I was like he was Commonwealth employee with his camera. So he has some awesome footage, like archives of stuff happening in Pennsylvania politics. Really, like no one else has.
Someday, someday, when long after Roxbury dies, all this footage is going to be sitting around and it's going to get left to somebody who's going to be like, holy crap. And they're going to make
what do we do with this?
and they're going to make multiple series of Pennsylvania politics in the history. Because he's got all this footage.
He has the Mike Stack interview press conference that was happening in his office the day like the story broke of him, and literally had like reporters who hate each other like within the press pool demanding they answer that reporter's question, yelling at Mike Stack. Like he has Kathleen Kane getting like shooed off the stage back in like 2012 2013. Yeah, he has all that stuff like on and then he has like
he should send it to Michael
so much
Moore.
Shit on.
Yeah, Nancy's saying he should just send it to Michael Moore and have Michael Moore do a whole thing on it. I mean, I would love Michael Moore would do a great job in Pennsylvania. I have to say, I think he would do. He'd be the perfect character for it.
I mean, like this would be like a Netflix documentary he can put together on this stuff.
Oh my God! And Shanna says that her former campaign manager totaled his car. That's not good.
Yeah, that was the first day he moved into Harrisburg.
Does Roxbury have that on film?
No, he ended up getting a Tesla after that, I think. So he went from having a Prius to a Tesla.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, all right. So let's now we got the Roxbury cleared up. I try to usually come in and kind of like ask for that, but sometimes we get kind of we get so win-win. Yeah, we get this to give some of the background and stuff like that. But sometimes we get into the weeds and stuff like that. So I appreciate the question, Nancy, so we can clear that up for folks listening. So one of the things happened this week in Pennsylvania, which is really in my mind tragic, right? Kathy Bookvar, she stepped down this week, right? So she was the Secretary of State, right? And so basically,
this has nothing to do with the elections either.
Right, it's nothing to do with the elections. So there was basically it was going to be an initiative. There was going to be an amendment, a constitutional amendment that would have given plaintiffs of sexual abuse victims, would give them 2 years to file civil lawsuits. Right, the state laws would have required proposed amendments that had to first pass the state legislature during consecutive sessions before they are put directly to voters in a ballot initiative. So it's a lengthy process. And
part of the process is you have to get advertisements in 2 county newspapers or 2 county publications for each vote. I don't know if it's before or after the vote happens, but I think in some counties there were not any advertisements about this constitutional amendment being voted on, and therefore the process has had to start all over again.
Right.
and this was in relationship to the legislation that's been happening around the Catholic Church, Shapiro's grand jury reports, the abuse survivors, and stuff like that, opening up the windows for them to sue. And I think the resignation was warranted.
Yeah.
This is such a fatal mistake that you can't just, there has to be accountability for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's even if it was her fault or not, like, this is, something that you had to have immediate and swift accountability over it.
Right, and this is what Wolf came out and basically said. This is Wolf's words. Say the delay caused by this human error will be heartbreaking for thousands of survivors of childhood sexual assault, advocates, and legislators. And I joined the Department of State in apologizing to you. Kathy Bookvar apologized this, and I said I share your anger and frustration that this has happened, and I stand with you in your fight for justice. And he was saying as he announced her resignation, and why I say this is devastating. One, is devastating for the victims first and foremost, who are right on the basically the first time that this measure was passed was in 2019. They passed it again in 2020.
They passed it last week, I think.
And they passed it, and then but because those ads were not there, then this has to start all over again. And there was. This is not an instance of someone doing something intentionally. It just is something of like really, really messing up, and having really bad, major consequence. I know Katie Muth has been livid this week, and insistent that we're getting right back on this, and there's no way we're going to let this go.
I mean, like, I was at that press conference with Shapiro.
Yeah.
That might have been one of the only times I've ever seen every journalist in the room crying, just listening to how bad that rollout of the report was.
Yeah.
And definitely something that I will never forget. And it's a monumental mistake. Don't know if she's to blame or not, but that's your department, and there's accountability for that.
Well, yeah. Look, and that. She's going to live with that one way or another. For the rest of her life. I whether or not it was directly her mistake, or if she knew and it was supposed to have done, somebody else is going to do it. Yes. Or it's ultimately your responsibility, right? And I know if that was me that did something like that, I don't know how you get past that after that. I would just anyways. But so that happened in Pennsylvania this week too, as well. On the flip side, it was always nice to see when Scott Perry, his former faculty instructor at the Army War College, basically calls him says, "How dare you use images and associate yourself anyway with the War College? Like, get rid of that. Your behavior is troubling." So that was a nice little kind of like tidbit, kind of stick the little knife in Scott Perry's back. But we have it. Anyways, you got anything else going on in PA before we hit this week's last call?
Nothing too much. No, nothing really.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Well, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Hopefully, we're not going to run into that sound issue again after the break. It's a little quirk. I just can't seem to isolate why that seems to be happening with my mic, but it's happened a couple times. Anyways, we'll take a quick break.
Here we go.
What's that?
The Labor Board has denied Amazon's request to stop the union for at Alabama warehouse. Ballots are scheduled to go out Monday morning in the mail.
Fantastic. All right, that's an answer to a question we have there. And good time for Jeff Bezos to step down from Amazon too. I'll just say that. Right. Anyways,
also I love what the stuff Biden's doing with the labor movement.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good so far. Yeah. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back after this, we're going to have this week's last call. We talk beer news, talk space news, and other kind of cool stuff that's going on. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Remind you to hit that kind of like button, hit that kind of subscribe button on YouTube, and make sure, if you can, hit us up with becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/rcpress. We'll be back right after this message. Welcome back to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast. It looks like my mic is stable, and it's this week's last call. Sorry about the long wait there, folks. My daughter is taking cello lessons, and of course virtually, and her cello was in a place where she could not get it, so I had to go help her out and make sure she was all set up for that. We forgot to do. Usually we do that first thing in the morning, but forgot to do that today. So my bad. Welcome to this week's last call. So a couple bits in space news. First of all, I know this is Sean's favorite part of the show.
Wow, Space Force.
And so we like to track the goings. I like to track the goings of the kind of emergent galactic capitalists and kind of what they're up to. This week, White House, it was a very good moment. I would appreciate Sean sending me this little clip first before, I saw it from
I think she was
first.
being like a very big smartass on that.
Totally. She's like,
Wow, Space Force.
yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. So it's really fascinating. So of course, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked about what the future of the Space Force was, and she's like, again,
wow, Space Force.
She's like, oh, it's the plane of today, right? Because apparently the day before they were just asking her about what the color selections are going to be in Air Force One, and she's just like, really, this is a story you're going to talk about?
I really love like the okay, so I love how she has been responding as a communications director. Like, just, are you fucking kidding me with these questions? Like, you know what I mean? Just like, and just like, I get it from like the journalist side, but from like the communicator side that I'm on now, and like JJ's been tweeting these out, but like he's like, just, that feeling when you want to kill a fucking writer. Like, and she's doing it in real time over stupid questions. I don't know if the Space Force question was stupid, but there's some other like, what color are you going to color Air Force One, or like what were you up with like with the other one, Sarah Huckabee Sanders running for governor? Did you see that clip?
No, I did not.
Someone asked her what she heard lots like who? Remind me, who's again? Yeah, we're not concerned about Trump.
I'm telling you,
former officials running for office.
She's really good at that job.
Like, she's like, that's at the bottom of our list, caring about Sarah Huckabee Sanders running for.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, she is really good at it, really good at that job. She's got a kind of a sarcasm to her. And again, and look, I don't know a whole lot of her politics, right? Kind of where she comes down and a bunch of stuff. And so I'm just thinking purely at a kind of professional level.
Comms person.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy actually watching her. I enjoy her wit and I enjoy her comebacks. And the Space Force was just,
wow, Space Force
was just really, that's, make it into a permanent drop on this show. That's for sure.
I thought one of the best things the past month was coming from Biden with Ducey about the Putin call. Did you see that one?
I didn't. I heard about it though. Yeah.
So Biden is like, so what did you and Biden talk about? He goes, you wanted to ask how you're doing. Just like he was checking up on you, and just like everyone in like the media room just started laughing.
Yeah,
like they couldn't, like they were trying to hold in their laughs,
well, they couldn't,
but like
right.
They couldn't.
Yep. I'm telling you, if they keep that up, that it's going to bode really well for their messaging strategies. I mean, it's again,
it's no bullshit, no nonsense. Like
Jen Psaki's first day, right, on her first press conference, they spent a kind of significant amount of time talking about the relationship of the press corps, and she was talking about transparency and all this. Now, again, transparency for a White House press secretary, whatever, right? But I do believe, obviously, if you're going to compare it to the Trump administration, obviously, but it's a comms person, right? They're going to have their spin, they're going to have all that other stuff, but at the very least, in being able to have a clear and consistent message and actually responding, even at times sparring with people, but doing it in a principled manner is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I'm all for it. So we had that. So this I didn't even know this until late last night. But on Super Bowl Sunday, SpaceX now is also launching a commercial for what it's billing as the first all-civilian spaceflight. right? So I talked about, I don't know if this was last week or 2 weeks ago. So there's this like, when they say all civilian spaceflight, that means the entire crew, right? It's not like there's going to be some passengers, because there had been other, billionaires that have gone up into space and taken a ride, but it's been like a NASA crew or kind of like a Soyuz crew, whatever it might be. Here, this is an all civilian crew, and it's this. It's called the Inspiration 4 project. With this billionaire, like, of course, billionaire Elon Musk is teaming up with billionaire kind of Jared Isaacman to kind of launch up in space. And they're doing this kind of like, charity to the masses kind of stuff, realizing maybe all billionaires isn't a great look. So let's open it up a little bit. Let's have a little kind of like, soft Hunger Games thing going on here for somebody else who can come up here. So they have 3 additional seats that they're going on this. So this is supposed to happen in 2022, I believe. So now they're gonna have there's 3 seats. 1 seat's up for grabs in a contest to anyone who makes a donation to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. So the commercial on for the Super Bowl Sunday is going to be geared towards that. Say, hey, go to this website. You could sign up for your chance to go to space, right?
Your golden ticket.
Right. And I'm just thinking about that. The guy sitting there watching this Super Bowl, right, with his big bag of Doritos, like, I'm gonna go to space. It's like, that's the image that keeps on going in my mind, right? Homer Simpson goes to space, but whatever. That's way too much of a generalization, but whatever. That's what goes in my head. Anyways, so there's that. There's actually going to be a St. Jude's Children's Hospital. St. Jude's healthcare worker is going to get like in a raffle to go up to space. And then the third one is going to be the winner of an entrepreneur contest from Isaacman's Shift 4 shop. I guess it's his like competition online or something like that. So, and the reason why I flagged this for this week is because if you're like me and you follow kind of space news at all, the commercialization stuff, right? The complete privatization and the shift into tourism is happening really fast, right? There's this other project, it's called the Gateway Foundation. They're basically, they just unveiled this automated kind of robotic construction system that they have. But they are basically saying that what they're going to be doing is build the first, any sci-fi movie you see with a space station, it's like, it looks like a big wheel, right? Sometimes 2 wheels, and it goes around, right? It spins. Why? Because that's a way of creating artificial gravity, right? In kind of like, in a gravity-free zone, so to speak. So they've actually got a plan. They've been working on this now for several years, probably at least a decade now. And they have a working, prototype for these robotic construction stuff that will spit out these materials to assemble this big ring, right? And again, I understand how out there this all sounds, and it's kind of sci-fi stuff and everything, but these people are serious, right? And we've allowed them to accumulate so much freaking money that it's nothing but their fantasy, right? I mean, this is what they're going to create, and there's going to be a little bit of a gold rush. I mean, I think that it's interesting right now that Jeff Bezos stepped down from Amazon, right? I mean, after he takes his enormous haul from his COVID spoils, right? And now he's going to step down from Amazon, right? And my guess is part of that, he's going to make that shift over to Blue Origin. Like Blue Origin, of course, is Jeff Bezos' space project, right? They just had kind of another test launch, which they are going on. And my guess is that's where he's going to put a bunch of his energy. So as you watch, as I watch some of these kind of personnel start to move around in this kind of space industry, there's other woman too as well. I forget her name right now. Cooper, I want to say her name. I'm not sure. But she's some sort of, yeah, exactly, Brian, plague profiteering, exactly what Bezos did. But she basically runs these kind of managed, like investment funds, right? It came up in one of these space things that I was reading. So, and she's kind of fairly well known, has been fairly successful in managing this fund, right? And they are launching a new one that is focused solely on the space industry. Right. And so you start seeing these shifts happening all at the same time of people who are kind of literally betting on kind of the future of this particular industry. And then you have these billionaires who are going like full throttle. SpaceX now basically saying, OK, we're going to start launching this stuff, this commercial, this whatever space tourism thing on our own because we're not going to wait around for anyone else. Virgin Galactic is also kind of at its test flight looking for that kind of first round. They're starting to sign people up for that. We've reported on that in the show too as well. So we're seeing this massive move. So if you put this in the context of galactic capitalism, as I always try to kind of like, bring it back to that eventually when I'm not just having, fun talking about space stuff. You're talking about all this surplus capital that these people are holding, and they're looking for places to put it. If you know anything about capitalism, right, money's got to do something, right? And even if it's completely wasteful for all of humanity, right, this is kind of what they need to do. So we're going to start seeing more and more of this industry kind of build up. At some point, I know I keep on threatening to do this, but at some point, if I ever can find like a consistent time that I can kind of just break off and do something specifically on this, even if it's just like a 15-20 minute segment a week, I'd love to do it because it's interesting, and I'm going to try to get somebody on who's going to talk a little bit more about the space industry. We had, if you out to Coop Live a couple of weeks back, we had Paris Marks on. He's a host of the Tech Won't Save Us podcast. He's does great stuff on kind of a left critique of or kind of a left focused program focusing on technology and space stuff and things like this. And we talked a little bit about there, but I'd love to have someone from the industry talk a little bit about it, but we'll get there. I'm also trying to build up my credentials, right, is the other thing, so that they will, I'll be able to go to some of these, what do you call it? Kind of industry gatherings, like conferences, basically. Sean knows I was trying to go a couple years back to the one down in Texas. But at the last minute, they denied my credentials because I didn't have sufficient amount of writing and documented coverage of space industry. And I was so mad. But they're like, you could still come, right? We're just not going to give you a media pass, and so you're going to have to pay for it. I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to freaking pay Lockheed Martin to go and cover this thing. Come on, you kidding me? But whatever. Anyway, so more on that kind of in days to come. I think this is another super promising move. What's happening at NASA under the Biden administration. I mean, that the Trump administration, one of the things Jim Bridenstine did there, we talked a lot about this, is this push to go to the moon. Everything that keeps on coming out, they are still talking about the 2024 date for getting kind of boots back on the moon, which is interesting. I thought we were going to stop hearing some of that, but that keeps on coming back, which wonders what's going on there in those halls. But the more important part of this is because there so many attacks were made in the Trump administration on climate change and environmental protection. That was true also in NASA, which NASA was basically, they put a huge throttle back on their climate science stuff. Well, Biden is basically saying, as part of the climate project, or kind of like the addressing climate change, they created this new role, which is going to prioritize earth sciences and climate crisis, right? And it's going to be called the Senior Climate Advisor position. It's going to report directly to the NASA administrator. So not like a low-level person paying attention to this, but someone who's going to be in there talking directly about what's happening here with climate and how to strategize and how to develop policy in order to kind of get this information out. So that is really good news. The guy who they said, this guy Gavin Schmidt, they put him at he's the acting, the acting climate advisor in there. They have to go through approval process and all that, but he right now is the head of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies. So you've got solid scientists who's kind of focused on this stuff, does research in this area of climate. So this is going to be really good news as yet another tool in addressing kind of the climate crisis. Because let's remember, NASA is critical for kind of, say, climate change and the climate crisis, not just for, say, U.S. government policy, but it had long been one of the leaders of gathering information, right, and gathering kind of imaging, kind of and monitoring stuff for the globe. Right. And now NASA is not the only one that does this. Right. But they have significant investments in that Earth Science division, which had been, again, like I said, throttled back under the Trump administration. So this says, OK, joining the Paris Climate Accord, getting back at least with the rest of the world, and also kind of like retooling NASA, repositioning NASA once again to focus on the problem right in front of us, which I think is a good thing. So that's all I got for Space News this week. But I did want to say there was one other kind of big piece of news this week where Sean got some new pots. So I think we definitely need to give some time to that.
So I will say that a really good piece came across, article I recommend. I just put on my Twitter account.
Okay.
It's called The Secret. It's Time published this yesterday. The Secret History of the Shadow Campaign that saved the 2020 election. Pretty much a lot of it talks about the Count Every Vote and Save Our Democracy rallies that we spent months planning on. Just us in Pennsylvania, we're talking about every week. And lead the election, and how it was really the most stressful months of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, and the days after the election. So really good.
Very cool. Congratulations.
I'm going to read this afterwards. Thank you. A little pat on the back for that.
There you go.
Basically, just talks about the rallies I was shooting for here in Pennsylvania, and talking about that stuff in a much larger scale. And how people came out and said, fuck you, Donald Trump, after the election. But no, I mean, it talks about labor, the alliance between labor and business to go against Trump and stuff like that. So a whole lot of stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you have to put that on the agenda for next week so we can kind of talk a little bit about the coverage. That'd be great.
Yeah. So I got a couple pots in this week. I bought a Le Creuset. I guess that's pronouncing it correctly. A nice
Sure.
Le Creuset. A Le Creuset Dutch oven, 3.5 quart Dutch oven. I think it's called a sauteuse pan or a sauteuse. Really nice. Use that to cook with this week. Love it. Looking forward to using that to make sauces and chicken and stuff like that, and maybe even more. Who knows? And then I have a lasagna pan that came in finally. Spent months.
Have you used the lasagna pan yet?
No, I haven't. But I will be using it probably next week at some point. I'm making my bolognese sauce again this weekend. I'm going to cook that in my my sauteuse pot. But, looking forward to it. I never realized how Le Creuset became a millennial fucking status symbol until someone mentioned it, and I'm I always thought it was just something my mom cooked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
okay. So if
I cooked with it.
There's
I was gonna say I cooked with that.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
I was gonna say I cooked with that pot a couple of times when I was home over the holidays, and loved it. And I told my mom, I'm gonna buy a sauteuse or a saucier pan, and it was gonna be a lodge. And she's just just spend the extra $100, get something that'll last you forever. At that point, so that's what I did.
Very cool, very cool. So you're gonna make some visits to the Le Creuset outlet stores? Is that what you're gonna do?
No, probably not.
There's some good ones. There you go. Well, very good. I'm so glad that you are kind of cooking with gas once again, Sean, as the saying goes. It's very good. Some of the pictures, you got to say, if you get on Sean's lifestyle channel, it's not only do you get some great suggestions about clothing and some new hip footwear that's out there, but his pictures of some of his cooking are also great. So definitely
should be.
Yeah, it's definitely sign up for his.
I am virtue signaling to people on social media that, hey, look, I'm got my shit together and I know how to cook.
Yeah, no, it's great. No, but that's what I'm saying.
Hopefully, my neighbors or people,
Yeah, make sure that you just make sure that you just follow his lifestyle channel. It is exclusive to fleets, so you'll have to hop on that. Just kidding. No, but his Instagram account's got great stuff.
No, it's on Instagram.
Yeah, I know. I'm joking.
I am still waiting for my camera lens to come in, so I'm kind of pissed about that.
Brian's asking if your cooking is a result of you not being able to go out in COVID, and I was about to say to you because you were cooking well before COVID. Yeah, but you were cooking well before COVID though.
So when I turned 30 July 2019, or 2020. No, 2019.
Old man.
Well, no, I wasn't cooking before that. Maybe just throwing shit into a crock pot and.
No, you were doing barbecue and stuff like this. You would do stuff like that. I mean.
But no, I grew up in a house where my parents always cooked. My mom always cooked. My mom's a good cook. My brother's a good cook, and just got to the point where it's fuck it, I should probably teach myself how to cook at some point. So, but COVID did play a part. I became got a lot more experimental with COVID and stuff like that, just from not being able to go out 3 or 4 nights a week. So,
Yeah, you're gonna be one of these success stories, right? Sean living his best life. Right? You know? It's like I'm gonna go down the shitter, but you're gonna be like, yeah, I gotta come out of them. I'm freaking, you know, I'm gonna open my own restaurant. I got my photo business on the side. Gonna display my artwork in my restaurant
my political
with
grifting.
my food. Right, exactly. It's like, and I'm gonna be taking down the man while I'm doing it. This is great. It's awesome. Right? And I'm gonna be there like that.
One thing I will say, like,
I'll just be like sitting there being like,
that is one of the
help.
I will say one thing that's the advantages of being in Harrisburg. Like, it's a cheap place to live, and like I have, you know, I'm fortunate enough, I'm glad enough, I love the fact that I have a job where, you know, it gives me the free time to be able to do things and a lot of research and tracking this stuff out here in Harrisburg. But you know, I will say, like,
this is me starting to get resentful right about now. Just saying.
But no,
just
I mean, like,
saying.
It'll let me do the things.
Nothing but love,
like,
man.
I've always had this. Oh yeah, but no, I've always had this point. Like, you know, Sarah Jeff, I think, was probably talking about with her book that like meaningless jobs are just there to exploit people. And I got into a huge argument with people about this. Like. I hope one of the things I'm talking about with like COVID is I hope this like I hope ignites a conversation at work is bullshit for the most part.
Yes.
I had a bunch of friends telling me like that's just a wrong take. I'm like, no, like, yeah, I have a hard work ethic and I'm glad to be doing things I want to do. But like people working bullshit jobs just for the fact of like being fulfilling in life is a horrible fucking take. And it just keeps us chained to this, like, I mean, like, I like the European attitude towards things, like a laissez, like a very laid back approach, and how like people hate, like especially a lot of Americans hate that type of attitude. No, like that's how we should be living and interacting. Like, yes, I'm doing what I want to do and I'm enjoying it, and you know got some awesome fucking things coming up here in Pennsylvania, but like I don't see my job as work. Like, you know what I mean? It's fulfilling and it's fun to do. Like, I don't know.
Living the dream, man. I know. Totally. No, seriously. But you know, for the longest time, I mean, I was like, I mean,
I'm not punching in and punching out. I have a non-traditional job. It's fun.
But I'm saying too as well is that you're built for that job too. I mean, like I've been saying for years that like look, this is your sweet spot, right? And you know, the fact that you're actually doing that and it's freaking, you guys are having that kind of impact that you are is amazing. Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that is like, you know, for whatever kind of like small part I played in that journey that you've been on, I am thankful for, because I'm so psyched that that's where you're at. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. No.
I mean, it really is. It really is. And the people that you're working with are just freaking awesome. And it's great.
And it's like, you know, it took, you know, thank you, Scott Wagner.
We just like to call Scott Wagner the turning point.
No, but I mean, like, it's amazing how something like that with Wagner has led to us opening up that whole entire realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Like, and it's, you know, we're taking that opportunity, we're running with it. We got things coming up in the next month or so that are going to be awesome. And, you know, it's just going to be, it's like, you know, like, when I start working with Spotlight, you know, my thing's like, okay, am I going to have a job come like January of 2019? Like, and here we are, like, you know, just really just taking this thing by the horn and running with it, you know, and it's going to be awesome. You know, I'm glad working with Eric. I think we both have that same personality.
Yeah.
Of like building things, but like, you know what I mean? It's, I can't wait.
Well, awesome.
You know, where we're going and what we're going to be rolling out this year. It's fun having that trust.
Yep. 100%. I can't wait. I mean, it's like there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be happening this year coming up, as I'm very, very excited about it. Well, let me give everybody some little beer recs we got from this week. And like I said, well, let me check actually. Before I just jump too hard on the beer recs that we've got here, I wanted to see if if there's been any update about the new releases on the Free Will webpage. It does not look like it, which bums me out. But so like I said, there's some new beers they got coming out this week that they're going to announce on Saturday. So you'll hear about those next week. So you're not going to be the one first in line to lap the stuff up, but here it is. But they do have two returning beers that are coming out that they announced earlier in the week. Juice Money. Juice Money is a sour ale with plum, blackcurrant, cinnamon, cardamom, vanilla, and milk sugar, and it's part of Free Will's ongoing collab with the Imprint Beer Company folks. And Juice Money was the first one that they did together and moved into this like new age sour landscape this years ago. Comes in around 6.5 ABV. That's last year's numbers. They didn't have the numbers up this year, but they'll be kind of right around in there. It generally is when it comes out. It's delicious beer. It's great, and again, for me, what I'm finding interestingly enough is that the black currant is increasingly has become one of those kind of tastes that I'm liking more and more in my life. It's just interesting that it's just kind of happening now, and I've had some like even just teas like black currant that I'm just really loving. So, and those flavors there, the kind of the black currant, cinnamon, cardamom are kind of like right in my like sweet zone. That I love that stuff, so that's good. And they also have the coffee oatmeal brown ale. That's one of their originals. That's gone through all these different changes over the years. Each year it gets better and better. That is brewed with flake oats and a variety of their favorite dark malts. Then it's later roasted atop 2 pounds per barrel of worth of freshly roasted coffee beans from the folks at Speakeasy Coffee Company, which is awesome. Again, local coffee roaster, which is great. And they always describe this beer, this is their words now, as the experience of walking into your favorite coffee shop. Highly aromatic, rich, and heady. One whiff, and you'll be instantly transported to that pick-me-up off your set, blah, 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 blah. Right? That comes in about 8.3 ABV. And if you remember, I bet each time they kind of come out with this, I'll tell a version of the story. But I remember when I first had it, there was this early on when they released it, I was not a big fan. When it first came out, it just wasn't, I could put my finger on it, but it was just wasn't here. The past 2 years, they've kind of hit this stride on this beer, and it's really nice drinking. If you like those flavors, it's very malty, right? But it's really, really nice beer. So that's good. Got out. The one thing I do have to, I know I mentioned this at the top of the show, but I want to say this again too as well. Want to give a huge shout out to some really good friends, my friends Stu and Paul and Ben and Niels, who we were able to hook up thanks to my friend Stu, who organized this like global Zoom call. He's over in Derry, over in Ireland, Northern Ireland. And so we've got one of us is in Providence, one of me in Pennsylvania, someone in Las Vegas, someone in Oakland. So kind of all the stuff we had, this kind of multi-time zone discussion was great. Hadn't seen these folks in a long time, and there's a long way of coming back to kind of the point that I said in the intro is that my friend Niels, who like I said, I haven't seen him in ages. And these are all the kind of like punk rock crew from Syracuse area and stuff. It was just great talking to them, and we're still all on this very similar pages, politically and all that, which is great. But anyways, my friend Niels was saying basically his girlfriend is the head brewer of Narragansett Brewery, right, which is in Providence, Rhode Island. It's been around for a long time. I mean, I think since when? 1890, right? So this is one of these long-standing breweries. It's a pretty large-scale brewery in many ways. Very much regional, kind of New England-y kind of beer that you would kind of see in bars and all this stuff. But I since have been learning, right, in our kind of discussion, so for whatever reason, this has been one of these beers that has been latched on by some hipster crews in some places where, instead of like, back in my old day, it was like PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon, or Milwaukee's Best or something like this, which is like the cheap kind of go-to beer that had a slight hipster tinge to it. And then PBR came back, and there was that for a while. And Narragansett's lager is apparently one of these beers. But it's pretty cool. There are not many breweries in the country that their head brewery is a woman. They're, from everything that I've heard about the brewery, they're doing some really cool stuff. You're going to see me sporting one of their hats pretty soon, which I went and bought after I heard that, which is pretty good. So I want to give a shout out to them. And if you're looking to kind of try something new, kind of good drinking every day, they got a crazy amount of different beers. I don't believe that they deliver, but you're probably going to be able to find some version of those, especially in a decent beer store, kind of in the area. So So do check them out. And their aesthetic of their webpage is like total, like, you know, retro 50s kind of thing. It's just kind of fun. So anyways, that's my shout out to Narragansett Beer folks. And thanks to all my friends that was able to talk to this week, which was pretty damn awesome. One thing we didn't talk about today, Sean, the snow. We didn't talk about the snow. And I'm very, very
Did we talk about it early on?
Oh, did we? Oh, yeah, we did. I guess we did. Oh, yeah, I talked about the snowblower and stuff like that. That's right. But apparently there's supposed to be another round of snow coming, at least for, I don't know if you're going to get out there. We had snow this morning here. We have to have snow again on Sunday. So we shall see.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get that much. So we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, crazy, man. You got anything else for the good of the order? Fun stuff for the weekend?
Nothing too much.
Nothing too much. Well, there you go. Well, hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, folks, for hopping on our YouTube stream and everything. I want to remind everybody that, share it out with your friends. Let them know about this. Make sure you got that subscribe button hit. Make sure you got that bell hit. They'll know that kind of every time we go live that you're going to get that little notification. That you can turn us on in the background, kind of join in the conversation. It's fantastic. Thanks for all the comments today. I really appreciate it. I want to remind you that you can become a patron of this podcast and help support the work that we do. As little as $5 a month. Go to patreon.com/rcpress and become a patron today. If you're not kind of ready to become a patron, you don't want these for whatever reason, you still want to throw something a little bit in our tip jar, just go to paypal.me/rcpress, paypal.me/rcpress, and you can kind of give us a little kind of contribution to help support the show in any amount that you want. But most off, always appreciate the support, and hope you guys have a good weekend. So Sean, man, good talking to you, and here's to a good week ahead, and let's keep it moving.
Yep.
There we go. Yep. Right.
No, I'm reading over the story, so.
Yeah, I figured. All right. Well, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Thanks for everybody tuning in once again this week. We're going out once again with Jonathan Mann. That's Jonathan Mann with 2 N's. See ya!